Hello, this wall over here is beaten down, but we can still see how it was all Cyclopean and nice when Hercules was around. Well, I don't know who damaged the wall, not sure if Hercules did it, but it's clear he was involved, and not only with this one, but also with many other Cyclopean walls. At first glance, there is no relation between Hercules and the Cyclops. Hercules drove to extinction some of the worst dreams of nature, a bunch of fearsome platypus like the Hydra or man eating horses. But all that scary zoology had at least two eyes. No Cyclops were harmed during this Hercules tale. However, if we look at the subtext and follow Hercules around, we might find out more about who was building Cyclopean walls. Or at least it should be an entertaining ride. This is one of those prequel movies. We already know how the story ends. Hercules triumphs and is adored all over Europe, with many temples, although not Cyclopean, built to honor the big guy. Those temples were mostly made by the Romans, long past the Cyclopean times, and are, for that, much younger than the stories they refer to. On the other hand, the spread of the Herculean temples does not fit with the full extent of the Roman Empire. The Hercules temples are mostly concentrated near the Mediterranean Sea, and not in England nor in northern France, which somehow coincides with the areas with Cyclopean walls, covering the Mediterranean coast and not reaching up to the English Channel. This location coincidence between the non-Cyclopean Hercules temples and the older Cyclopean walls could have been for two cases. One is that the Cyclopean builders fancied Hercules since before it was cool and Roman. Or else, the second alternative is that the Indo-Europeans, the guys that later replaced the Cyclopean builders and also built the temples, liked Hercules for clearing the Cyclops out of the way. Which one of these two options is more likely is, in a nutshell, the dilemma we will try to solve by following the trail of Hercules' works. The time is well before the Trojan War, as mentioned by Homer, and the place is Argolid in the south of Greece, an epoch and region packed with Cyclopean walls. Hercules was this big muscle dude that, in a fit of steroid rage, killed both his wife and son. He soon repented, I wonder why, and reached for forgiveness by enrolling as a mercenary under the command of King Eurystheus, at the time ruling both Tiryns and Mycenae, the two literal Cyclopean cities. Meaning, these two cities are the only ones ancient sources ever said had walls built by the Cyclops, whereas all other equivalent constructions around Europe are called Cyclopean only by similarity. King Eurystheus is said to be Hellenic, Greek, or part of the new wave of Indo-Europeans, but that is assuming the facts were not misrepresented by the classical Greek and Roman themselves. Sources who had an habit of calling their own all the nice things they could find. As far as we know, that king could well be a truly Cyclopean ruler, a Pelasgian, from before the arrival of the Hellenes. That much only depends on the date of the original events being portrayed, be it from the early or from the late Bronze Age. The first third of the movie is deceptively simple. Set in the wilderness, we see a monstrous beast with golden fangs, antlers, and pointy balm thingies. The creature is minding its own business when Hercules shows up and kills it. There's blood, kung fu fighting, and parkour all over the place, but the result is always the same. The Nemean lion, the Hydra of Lerna, stag of Arcadia, boar of Hermantus, all dead, kaput, and those cities freed from their imaginary enemies. So let's take a quick look at the places to see if there's anything of interest. Yeah, there isn't much over there. You might have noticed that all those cities had two things in common. One is that they are located one stone thrown away from Mycenae, and the other is that none of the cities had Cyclopean walls, thus implying Eurystheus, the ruler of cities with Cyclopean walls, sent Hercules to kill beasts in places without Cyclopean walls. If later these cities would develop the missing Cyclopean walls, it would be a sure sign that Eurystheus and Hercules were working for the Cyclops. But that's not the case. Not a single odd-shaped stone fitted without mortar was in sight, and for that we cannot properly conclude anything just yet. The next two works are still located in the Peloponnese, but a bit further to the west, and this time the fighting is replaced by waterworks. For his fifth task, Hercules goes to Elis, near Olympia, both non-Cyclopean cities, to clean the stables of King Augeas, a local oligarch as dirty as rich, housing thousands of horses in a never-before-cleansed stable. Just imagine the stench. Hercules' solution was to divert the river and to have the water clean away all the dung, with the happy consequence of fertilizing the lands downstream. Then, for the sixth work, we encounter the first Cyclopean walls in Stymphalia, although the action is not taking place there but in a marsh populated by scary chickens. Hercules scares away the birds and thus enables the marshland to be drained and cultivated. Getting to this point, we start to see Hercules portrayed as a civilizer, moving water to increase crops, but that's all too convenient. In another version, the birds are the women devoted to the ancient gods that were kicked out of their lands, and the stable cleaning was part of a bet intended to launder money from the king of Elis. Anyways, halfway through the tasks, the first act is gone, with just one Cyclopean wall in sight. By slaughtering the domestic beasts, Hercules had proven his worth to King Eurystheus and was now ready for more ambitious tasks overseas. He gathers a group of ragtag soldiers of fortune and sails to the next door kingdoms in order to, one by one, humiliate the local rulers with the following three tasks: capturing the mad bull of the Minoans in Crete, killing the man-eating horses of Thrace, stealing the belt of the Amazon queen, arguably a Scythian ruler in Crimea. These three foreign nations are all non-Cyclopean nor Hellenic either. However, they all share a very interesting circumstance. In each of the lands of these three kings there is one, just one, very isolated Cyclopean wall. Each of those three walls are alone in a large area, which is rare. Cyclopean walls tend to be found in groupings, often dozens of them within a short stint. But that's not the case in those locations. In Crete, the Cyclopean city of Lato is 300 kilometers apart from the nearest Cyclopean wall. In Thrace, Plovdiv has no other wall closer than 400 kilometers away, whilst Crimea is even more distant, with the Cyclopean wall of Panticapaeum or Kerch being over 700 kilometers away from the walls of Georgia. All of these sites are uniquely interesting, clearly deserving full videos for themselves. So much so I already made 2 of them, so please subscribe to see the third one when it finally comes out. Moving on with the story, we cannot unsee how King Eurystheus, via Hercules and his A-team, have become imperialistic, and that the foreign nations he was bullying had not oil but endangered Cyclopean walls. Could it be that the objective of these 3 tasks was to show off the raw power of the Cyclopean capital Mycenae and to protect the Cyclopean outposts and their wonder walls? Well, maybe. Let's see who's the one Hercules gonna be saving after all. After humiliating all the neighboring kings, Hercules moves up the political ladder to engage in more diplomatic missions, trying to open up trade relations with far-flung countries. For that, he will crisscross the whole Mediterranean to procure, often by force, since old habits die hard, the finest productions of Iberia, cattle and golden apples, with the caveat that no one back then knew where to find these delicacies. This muscled economic diplomacy will take Hercules wandering around all the lands of antiquity, either Cyclopean or not, this including Libya, not Cyclopean. Georgia, yes. Italy, also yes. Mauritania, not as far as we know. Egypt, it's complicated. Liguria, maybe. And Albania, Cyclopean for sure. After all those business trips and with the help of Prometheus, brother to the Cyclops, held in Cyclopean Georgia, Hercules does find the location he was looking for. swiftly travels there, kills a bunch of uncooperative middlemen, and carries the foodstuff back home. But then, probably beginning to distrust the king, Hercules will not reveal the location of the garden and pasture he was procuring. As a result of the trade secrecy, we aren't sure where the goodies were coming from. Current interpretation places both Eritrea, that's the pasture, and the golden orchard with the fruits in southwest Iberia, which actually makes sense. That land is quite good at producing fierce bulls and bright oranges, and also they were Cyclopean at the time. Enough reasons for the Mycenaean master to establish trade relations with them. For his final and liberating work, Hercules descends as low as possible. He steals a dog. It's a nasty thing to do. But Cerberus, as was called the pup, was weird. Had 3 heads, a dragon on his tail, and snakes off his ears, and also was guarding the entrance to the underworld, the destination of the dead. Hercules had already killed many other strange beasts that were closely related, half brothers or first cousins of that dog. This including the Hydra, the Nemean lion, and the Hartus, whatever that is. However, he spared the dog. Right after petting him for a while, he released Devil Fido back into the doors of hell and called it a day. After all, his tasks were complete. For his exceptional work, Hercules was not commended with a full pension, because he had then become immortal, and those monthly payments forever could be quite expensive. Unpleased, Hercules eventually rebelled against King Eurystheus to install a new dynasty in Mycenae, cutting the line of the throne from Eurystheus into the upcoming Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae during the War of Troy, which is not that helpful for our case. We know Agamemnon was not Cyclopean, but even after all these works, we cannot be certain if Eurystheus or even Hercules were Cyclops or not. Never mind the confusion. Are you not entertained? This is a story, just let's see how it ends. Fast forward to the future, or the opening scene, and we now have Hercules as an established folk hero. His tale was converted into several successful plays and awful Sunday afternoon TV shows, plus a bunch of supplements for bodybuilders. And also, there were all those temples covering a big chunk of the Roman Empire, in areas with Cyclopean walls, plus Germany. Yes, Germany. You'll see why. I started this video with an hypothesis that Hercules was hunting down Cyclops, exterminating them in the service of the newcomer Indo-European rulers. But then I realized most of the cities Hercules was targeting did not have Cyclopean walls. It occurred to me that the storyline might have just the opposite flow. Hercules was protecting the Cyclops, but this reverse interpretation was not clear-cut either. So, as per the question, if Hercules was fighting for or against the Cyclops, or on behalf or in defiance of the Indo-Europeans, I now think it is neither, and the explanation is to be found in Germany. In Germany, during Roman times, there was a local cult dedicated to Hercules Magusanus that had no relation whatsoever to the Greek Heracles, being an old Germanic hero called Magus, one that the Romans adopted and mixed up with the Greek story to make up a whole new thing that for us does not make any sense, but for them it did, both for the Germanic tribes and for the Romans. I like to think that this mix and match of events, with Hercules being reimagined for the new times, had happened before to Hercules, implying that Hercules was once a Pelasgian or a Cyclopean hero. From the time and culture, Cyclopean walls were being built all around southern Europe, and that as the new Indo-Europeans came into control of the territory and co-opted the Cyclopean walls for themselves, they also reshuffled the story of the hero to fit their new incoming worldview, something like making Thor friends with Captain America. Here's the thing, this story of Hercules is not literal in any way. One should figure that out by about the time we see one guy driving to extinction more species than an undersized Noah's Ark. It is obviously all symbolic, although we're not sure of what it is symbolizing, and my best guess is that it represents syncretism. That is a big word for something the Romans were great at, and we've sadly forgotten how to do. It means the ability to pick up an idea from someone else and create something even bigger with that. Syncretism, like Cyclopean, have acquired a bad reputation recently, and for that we've fallen into a spiral of disbelief, whereas either one believes in nothing or has to believe in one crooked expert consensus and fight all those that doubt the official versions of the events. That is why academia has decayed into a dogma machine, unable to learn, unable to look at whatever crazy theories are out there and find the nuggets of truth in them. A decline complete with academics chasing off the storytellers instead of improving their own limited knowledge. That was too heavy, and ends our ride following Hercules. For the next video, we'll go back chasing the real Cyclops in the walls of Panticapaeum. That's it for today. Hope you liked it. See you in the comments.